Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tobin Solutions webinar on Microsoft Teams. And we're going to talk today about using Microsoft Teams for collaboration. We can also be talking about how to connect people now that we're a distributed workforce for a lot of people now, given the stay-at-home orders and some of that's been going on. I know with some of that lifting, some of this is shifting, but some people are going at different paces with that. When something happens like that, one of the ways that some problems can sometimes be solved is through technology. And we're seeing a lot of tools like Microsoft Teams that have really been impactful in helping people collaborate and communicate and keep the work moving, keeping clients happy by using tools like this. So we'll get into Microsoft Teams. That is me, by the way. We're going to be covering Microsoft Teams, and Microsoft Teams is a pretty big application. There's a lot of features and functions it can do. We're going to really hit on some of the highlights today. This isn't meant to be a full-on training session, but it's really meant to give you a flavor of what Microsoft Teams is and what it can do, and how it may help you collaborate and connect with your teams. I've got everyone muted here as we go, and if you've got questions, go ahead and use the chat box as we go along. We'll unmute everyone at the end for live questions. Take that Q&A. In the end, we're going to send you out a survey thanking you for being here today, but also understanding how this webinar went for you and whether you got what you wanted out of it, whether you have any ideas for future webinars or how we can improve on our webinar series. One of Tobin's values is continuous improvement, and one of the most valuable ways we can continuously improve is through feedback from people like you. You'll also get the presentation slides via email as well. So before we jump into Microsoft Teams, we have to just take a step back and talk about what Microsoft 365 is. Microsoft recently rebranded what was known as Office 365 and is now calling it Microsoft 365. So if you sometimes hear me call and use the term Office 365, what I mean to say is Microsoft 365, and my brain just hasn't gotten that all the way clear yet. This might be the third or fourth rebranding Microsoft has been doing around their cloud-based applications. And I think it used to be called BPOS, Business Productivity Online Suite. But now we're up to Microsoft 365, which I think is a great name. And that is Microsoft's monthly subscription service. They have different tiers of service that have different offerings and different technologies you can get from Microsoft. And as a cloud service, Microsoft is hosting and managing the applications on their servers, your data on their servers. They've got a 99% plus uptime guarantee, and Tobin Solutions helps with security, with support, with migration, with administration, development, integration activities. I love this picture of the Swiss Army knife. I'm the Boy Scout Scoutmaster, and always a big camper and a kid at heart. So I love knives, and Swiss Army knives, especially with all the tools and gadgets. What I love is the symbolism of this. When you get Office 365, you get an entire Swiss Army knife of business productivity tools. And the key with any tool is to really use the tool for its intended purpose. While you can use a knife to try and turn a screw, it's easier to use the screwdriver part of the Swiss Army knife. And so what I want to show you today is the Microsoft Teams as a tool and some of the things it can do, and see what's possible for you. A little bit more on Microsoft 365. For most of our clients, you fall into one of these 4 tiers of usage. They've got 4 different plans that suit most companies up to about 300 users. They have larger offerings for larger companies and with some additional features, but this is what most of our customer base is using or considering using. They've got the basic plan, which is mostly a web-based solution. They've got the business standard plan now. These also got renamed as part of their rebranding. Business Standard is what used to be known as Business Premium, and that's the one that's got the full version of Microsoft Office along with all the online technologies. They have one just called Apps for Business, which is really if you just want to use Microsoft Office and have the latest version and be able to share files. Some people find Apps for Business is useful. And then there's another product that Microsoft has, which we're finding a lot of value in, which is now known as their Business Premium Edition. And what that does is it takes all the Microsoft 365 small business applications that you're familiar with, Microsoft Office, SharePoint, Teams, and it rolls it in with mobility and security and management of your mobile devices. So it really creates a seamless, secure platform for having access to your applications and data from anywhere and any device. One of the things Microsoft used to be known for was it's all about me. It's all about Microsoft. And their goal was desktops everywhere running Microsoft software, and that was it. And they were quite successful in that world for a long time. Microsoft was, for a lot of people that were into the world of PCs at the time back in the early 90s, Microsoft was the big game in town around PCs. There were some other players, but it was really all about Microsoft. And then the internet happened, and Microsoft did a pretty good job pivoting to the internet, but that opened up the room for a lot of players. And while Microsoft tried to be everything to everyone and win all that business, we had new players show up like Google and Dropbox, and Apple started getting their game on with iPads and iPhones and all of that. And Microsoft shifted nicely. What they said is, look, we've got some great applications. We're going to support everything now. We're going to support any web browser you have. We're going to support any device you have, for the most part, at least all the popular ones. And we're going to make our applications and data available to you anywhere you go. And again, really useful because we're not all sitting at our desks with the Microsoft operating system anymore. Some of us have Macs. Some of us are using iPads or Android devices. And while Microsoft has that commitment to have all of this be available from all of those different devices and different web browsers, in reality, what we find is that sometimes certain features show up on certain versions. And so some of the things we're talking about today may be available from your desktop PC, but may not work on the Mac version, or it may exist in the Android version, but not on iOS yet. So, your mileage may vary as you go through this, just something to keep in mind. By and large, most of the features work across most of the devices, and as they roll out new features on new devices, they eventually get to the other ones that are out there. But just kind of be aware as you're going through this, depending on what environment you have, you may see things a little bit differently here. So what is Microsoft Teams? So in a nutshell, and in a very kind of boring way, it is a unified communication and collaboration platform that combines persistent workplace chat, video meetings, file storage, including collaboration on files, and application integration. And as you can see from the image, it's available on lots of different platforms. So whether you're using a Mac, a PC, a tablet, a phone, you can do all of that on all of those devices. So what does that look like in reality? What we're going to do is go through some of the key features here. And again, this isn't meant to be a full-on training session. It's really meant to expose some of the key features of what Microsoft Teams offers. Some of you may be using it now already. Some of you may have are just thinking about using it. And so we want to hit on the highlights here for you so you can see what's there. And listen to this presentation, not just for what this tool is and for what some of these things can do, but, think about your business, your organization. Where can you be applying these tools? What's a problem you can solve? What's a system or process that you can improve upon? What can you make available to your team and to your clients that wouldn't normally be available with doing things the way you might be doing them now with email and texting from your phone and some of that? There might be some real opportunities here to make a difference in those areas, and so be on the lookout for those. So Teams has these one-to-one chats, which is a lot like texting back and forth on a phone, right? Most of us are very familiar with texting our friends and family or coworkers or clients and just using our phone and sending messages back and forth. And Microsoft Teams has that feature built in. They also have the ability to do a group chat. So just like when you're texting from your phone, you can chat with a group of people, you can do the same thing within Teams. You can also do voice and video calling from within Teams. So instead of using your phone or FaceTime or one of those technologies that's kind of outside and kind of piecing things together, Teams puts all of this into one application. And it does it in a way that is secure within your organization. So one of the things that Tobin focuses on is a security first mentality. And so we think about security for our clients. What are the potential security risks if you're messaging people outside of technology that your organization has provided to you? Is there any risk if you're texting somebody any confidential information? Someone leaves an organization, where does that information go? Um, so the answer from Microsoft's perspective and Microsoft Teams is let's roll that into one application that uses your Microsoft Office 365 credentials and um, put everything in one place for you. So all the security you set up for your organization now applies to Microsoft Teams. And that includes not only these chats and voice and video calls, but also sharing and working with files, Microsoft integration with Teams. So Teams is not only allowing you to do these chats and work with files, but it actually integrates with other systems, both Microsoft and non-Microsoft. So maybe, for example, you like the idea of Teams for collaboration, but you're a big Dropbox user. Well, guess what? Microsoft has a way of integrating with Dropbox so that you can see those Dropbox files right inside of Microsoft Teams. Or maybe there's other programs you use like Trello or applications like that. There's some ways those can integrate with Microsoft Teams as well. And then another nice thing with Microsoft Teams that we're going to go into further is this ability, and it's really a key feature, is to take all of that information, all of those chats, all of those calls, all of those files, and organize them through their method of what they call teams and channels, and get all that information around those teams and channels so you're not looking all over the place to find things. You're going right where you need to go, and then be able to do that from anywhere on any device. So a little bit of what Microsoft Teams looks like. This is a snapshot of one of the images there and some cleverly pointing arrows to kind of give you a sense for what some of this looks like. And there will be a live demo later on. So this is just kind of give you an overview of it. When we hit in the actual demo, you'll see what this looks like. But you can see how it's broken down in this pane here. It's got the different teams and channels you've got. So like here where it says Northwind Traders, that's a team name. And then below that, you've got something called channels. And then within that, with each of those channels, you've got on this side, you've got they call conversations or chats. So that's where those chats are happening back and forth from any device, but they're happening inside of those channels. So it really focuses down the conversation to where the conversation needs to be. And it's what Microsoft calls as persistent. So right now for some of you, if you don't have good backups for your phone and you could have the potential for losing your messages that you do back and forth. With Teams, it actually stays inside of the Teams application and the data's there. So even if you leave the team and come back, all the information is going to be there. If you invite somebody new to the team, they're going to see all of the past conversations and chats that have been going on. So it keeps that persistent in between people and locations and devices. Also from in here, you can create these tabs across the top, which I'll show you, and you can create links to other applications there. And again, those are tied back to the channel, back to the team. You can run these online meetings, and up and down here, you can add application integrations as well. So it puts it all in one application instead of having to go find 4 or 5 different applications to accomplish these things. You can just say it's all in Teams. little bit more about those chatting and conversations, get a little more detailed on them. Um, some nifty things. Again, there's those one-to-one chats. So if Bill at company XYZ wants to talk to Jane at company XYZ, he can just chat with her back and forth inside of Teams, and it doesn't even have to be inside of uh, a channel or a team. It's just a one-to-one chat. So even if you don't have teams or channels set up, you can still chat back and forth. You can still do those group chats. Um, Another nifty thing which I'll show is you can actually start a chat around a document, which is really neat. We kind of do that now in some ways, right? We maybe email our team, here's the document, let me know your thoughts, and then the emails go back and forth, and people are like, wait, where's that document again? How do I find that? This solves some of those issues and maps the conversation focused where it needs to be focused. And like I said, it's persistent. So this moves from device to device. So you could literally be, say, at a client site and on your phone or on your tablet, and you're inside of Teams and you're chatting and grabbing information and all of that. And then you go back to the office and you open up Teams on your desktop, all of that information is there as well. So you can literally move from device to device and have these conversations and have them flow with whatever device you have at hand and participate in those conversations. And you don't miss anything. Another nice thing is Teams has voice and video calls. So in addition to that chatting, you can, when you're looking at somebody there, you can click the phone next to them. And if you've got a device that supports speaker and microphone, which most of today's modern devices do, especially our phones and tablets, you can go right into a voice conversation for when the chat just isn't working. Maybe the conversation isn't flowing, or maybe you're driving and you want to switch to your phone, you can do that. It's also got video conferencing in it. It's very good video conferencing. They keep improving on it all the time. So you can do video conferencing with your team, with a group within your team, your whole company, or you can even include outside guests. And you can do those voice and video chats just by clicking a Meet Now, just like as if you called somebody up and they picked up and started talking. But you can also schedule Teams meetings. So I think we're all pretty familiar with that. This used to be more of a challenge to explain prior to the pandemic hitting, trying to explain to people what it means to join a video call like Zoom or GoToMeeting or Microsoft Teams. Most people are pretty familiar with that now, where you schedule it, you get a link, and then you can join. Teams offers the same functionality. And again, all inside your Microsoft 365 tenancy, all wrapped into your security, your IDs, passwords. No need to set up separate accounts or manage different information that way. It's all in one place. Another nice feature with Teams is the ability to share your desktop. Again, that's probably something we've all been seeing lately, is our ability to uh, share our desktops and share PowerPoints and share documents we're working on. Microsoft Teams has that as well. So you can just share a desktop straight up and keep chatting about it. If you're in the middle of a meeting, you can share your screen during the meeting. You have that flexibility, that capability, and uh, fairly powerful, again, for that collaboration to be able to all see the same thing and work on the same document at the same time. It's also really great for training opportunities, especially as we're a distributed workforce right now. Maybe you've got an internal, I don't know, an accounting system internally, and someone's got a question about how to do something inside the accounting system. Well, maybe in the past you might have walked over to their desk, or they walked over to your desk, and you looked at a screen together and said, hey, let me show you how to click here and do this and enter the data and run that report. And it's been very helpful. Now, how do we do that when people are spread out? I was talking to one of the participants before this call started, and I think she said they've got 60 or so remote users all over now. So instead of being able to just walk over to their desk now, the idea of being able to connect to them and share screens really closes that distance gap with people and has it work very close to how it might have worked when you're in the office, all from one application. So great for training, great for collaboration. A little bit more about teams and channels to kind of break that down, because that's really how Teams organizes a lot of what they do. So a team is a collection of people, conversations, files, and tools. It's all in one place. So teams a lot of times are centered around projects or around departments. So you can think about it, that's one way to think about it. Maybe you've got a marketing team. Maybe you've got, what teams do you have already at your organization? Maybe you've got a leadership team, a marketing team, a sales team, a finance team, a service team, whatever those are that you have now. Those might be good opportunities to create teams around. Because when you're talking about sales with your sales team, it helps to have that conversation focused around just that team. But it could also be a project you're working on if that project has a number of different components to it, then it might make sense to break out a project as a team. Within the team, you can further break that down to channels. Those are dedicated sections within the team to keep those conversations, keep those documents, keep those applications all organized directly within that channel. And so they give a nice example of this, like with this accounting team here. You can see you've got an accounting team, and whenever you create a team, it automatically creates a general channel for you by default. But you can see in this case, they created some additional channels, an accounting channel, a finance channel, fiscal year 2017 planning channel. Another reason to use those teams and channels is the ability to enforce security. So within teams, you can set up a team to be a public team. So meaning public, it's inside your organization. Anyone that's been in has access to the public teams can get access to that team channel or team you set up. But you might have a team that is sensitive in nature for security for some reason, maybe because of a project you're working around, or maybe it's an executive team or a finance team, and you want just the people in that group to see that. So when you create those teams, you can limit those to specific users and groups. And it's the same thing within channels within there. So once you create a team, maybe you add 10 people to that group that has access to it. And then within that, you might have some channels, but within one of those channels, maybe only 3 of the people of that whole team should really have access to that channel. So again, you can create channels as public inside the team or private inside the team, and it limits just where those are. You can also log on to Teams with and have that be secured with multi-factor authentication, which we always recommend. So it's not only protected with your ID and password, but also, what you have in your hand, a phone or that's going to text you a 6-digit number, or the authenticator application. All the communication is encrypted between endpoints within Microsoft Teams. So all the chatting and files and sending of files and conferencing is all encrypted, and it's compliant with many standards, including HIPAA. So Microsoft has really spent a lot of time and effort putting together a product that with security in mind, and not so much an afterthought, but as part of the design, which has it in some cases be way more effective and useful to actually do what it's supposed to do around security. So another great feature of Teams is the ability to work with files inside of Teams. So if you recall from the screen before where I showed you what it looked like, there were those tabs across the top. One was conversations, where those chats are going back and forth. There's also a files tab. And when you click on that, you get a view of all the files that are stored inside that channel, inside that team. So in this example of our leadership team, there's a general channel, and these are the files associated with that. Right from within the Teams application, you can create files, you can edit files. Not quite as full-featured as the full-on Microsoft Office applications, but you can certainly see them and do some basic editing in them for sure. And depending on what you're editing, in some cases you can do everything you need to in there. Teams itself does not actually store anything. So when you look at this Files tab, what it's really doing is giving you a view of the files as they're stored inside of Microsoft SharePoint. And it does this all in the background for you. You don't have to think about it. It creates the SharePoint document libraries and puts the documents there. So you have to mess around with learning anything around SharePoint. but that is where things are shared, which is great because SharePoint is one of those applications where sometimes you want to integrate with many other things besides Teams. And so having those files in one place allows other capabilities and possibilities. As I mentioned before, Microsoft Teams as well as Microsoft products are no longer a Microsoft-only world. They understand that there's other applications out there that people use like Dropbox and Box and ShareFile and Google Drive. So you can actually add some of that cloud storage right into Teams. So instead of having to create files inside of SharePoint, if you're not a SharePoint user and you want to use Dropbox, you can do that. Or maybe you've got things in both places. Maybe you've got documents that you're using inside your organization, but you have a client that loves Dropbox and you want to make that easy for them to use and make that easy to access inside of the Teams application. You can do that. Another feature you get, and this is anytime a document is stored, in this case inside Teams, but it's really stored inside SharePoint, as I said, because SharePoint is the backend storage for Teams, is the ability to do something Microsoft calls co-authoring. So you may have already experienced this. If you're a Google Docs user, you've almost certainly experienced this, where people can be in the document at the same time and edit the document at the same time. And that is just super handy when you're in meetings. Maybe you've got an agenda people are working on together. You don't have to wait for somebody to get out of the document so you can go in and make your edits. You can actually be in at the same time, editing different parts of the file. It shows you who's in the file. You can see the edits appear in real time. It's quite powerful. And because those files are stored in SharePoint and you're using those within Teams, you get that co-authoring feature. So incredibly handy feature as we collaborate and make those documents available to people on the team. So I mentioned before about that application integration. This is just a small snapshot. There are hundreds of applications out there and services that are all set up to integrate with Teams. So some of these you may be familiar with, some of them you're considering using or have heard about. You know, there's a lot of different plugins and they have different levels of features and functions that they bring into Teams depending on what you're trying to do, and those keep expanding and adding features and enhancements to that. But it's a great way if you've got some of these other tools, or maybe Microsoft 365 and all the tools and technologies it gives are great, and you can do so much for your company. But sometimes, for whatever reason, you're using a different product, and Microsoft gets that, and they make these integrations available. And Microsoft Teams is becoming a very popular platform, and the other companies out there are seeing that for a lot of corporations, Teams is where it's at. And so what they're doing is they're creating integrations to work with Teams as well. So it's a collaboration of integration that is making all of this possible, and it just only expands on what you can do with Teams. Expands the experience, it expands the capabilities. So we talked a little bit about guest access. I think we touched on it earlier. Um, we talk about using Microsoft Teams inside of your organization. So everyone in your organization already has accounts set up with Microsoft 365. You can set up your teams and channels, and as I mentioned before, you can set up the permissions on those. But maybe you want to collaborate with one of your business partners, or you want to collaborate with a client on a project. Whoever that is, you can actually invite outside guests into Microsoft Teams and give them rights to only see those teams and channels that you give them access to. Now, this is a company-wide setting that can be enabled or disabled, and it can be tuned with certain features and functions. So you want to kind of look at that, because obviously this could be very useful if your clients and partners were using the same tool you were using. And if it's not done right, you can potentially create a security hole for yourself. So just again, be aware that this can happen. Make sure you understand how to use it, how to do it securely. If you've got any questions around that, get with us. So you don't accidentally expose data that you want you don't want to inadvertently expose, but then also be able to leverage the power of this, that you're all working off the same platform and what could be possible for that. All right. So we got a question here. Is there any difference between Teams and Zoom GoToMeeting applications? Um, that's a good question. There's definitely some differences in the features and functions of what those different video and conferencing applications can do. And, they've all got their pros and cons, and we end up using a little of everything at this point. Um, Microsoft Teams keeps expanding on their video and voice and uh, collaborations around that. I'm obviously using GoToMeeting today to do this presentation. I find that the features are a little more friendly right now as Microsoft still works some things out, but they keep adding new features and functions. We've probably all been on one or more Zoom calls in the last couple of months, and Zoom has really nailed a simplicity feature, which is nice. And Microsoft keeps working on making theirs simpler and more accessible. So there are some differences, and it really depends on what your specific needs are. If you're just doing basic voice video conferencing, there probably any one of those is going to do well. If you've got some niche features or some enhanced features you might need in terms of how you're presenting or what you want to do with the content or how you want to make the content available, then there might be some other conversations to be had there. And you also added in your question there about paying for it. Yeah, if it works for you and you're already paying for Teams, why spend money on something you don't need? Someone else asked about Bluebeam PDF documents. Can they be shared and edited by multiple users simultaneously? The PDF files can be added into Teams. So Microsoft, when you're adding files, it doesn't have to be Microsoft only documents. It can be PDFs and other document types. I don't know offhand about exactly how Bluebeam is going to integrate with that, and it may or may not allow that editing simultaneously. It might if Bluebeam natively does that. If Bluebeam doesn't do it right now, then it's unlikely that Teams enables that feature. But if you're trying to find those documents that you're editing with Bluebeam, which is a PDF editor type application, finding them and making them and chatting around them and all that can work great within Teams. Someone else is saying they find Teams to be very intuitive, and that's great. I think Microsoft works really hard at that, so that's a good testament to their design and rollout of it. It's we find it to be the same for a lot of things, just out of the box. It's quite an easy experience. Let's see, someone's asking about migration path from S4B to Teams. Oh, Skype for Business, yeah. So Microsoft used to, and they still do have a product called Skype for Business, which some of you may have been using or are currently using. You may have it on your desktop. That is, prior to Teams, was Microsoft's chat and collaboration and presence tool. Microsoft has sunsetted Skype for Business, in essence, saying that they're going to stop development on it and eventually it's going to go away, and it is being replaced by Teams. So in some cases, Microsoft handled that for you by getting rid of Skype for Business and only making Teams available. It depends on where you uh, where you stand inside that cycle and how you're using it. So there is a migration path. We can assist with that, and we have to kind of look at your unique circumstances and see if there's any considerations there. Most of the people that we know that have been using Skype for Business and they're familiar with sort of the feature function are finding the move to Teams pretty natural, at least from a training standpoint, which is almost always one of the big hurdles when migrating to a new application. So they've handled that pretty well. I think by and large they've got feature parity with some of the most critical features of Skype for Business are now found in Microsoft Teams. There might be a few outlier features that aren't there yet. And I think it's either, I have to look at the exact date. It might be this summer or next summer where Skype for Business is going to be sunsetted. Another person asked a question about video conferencing and being able to share a document and still see all the team members on the screen. So you can share a document and you can see all the members of the team already, but it's a little less optimal than like how some other applications do it. Like Zoom has it a little more flexible. It's got the ability to kind of separate those out and have it and move things around where you want them to be. Microsoft has been expanding the video conferencing capabilities of Teams and the ability to have Teams break itself out into different windows so you can move around different parts on the screen. They've been adding some of those features now. Used to only be able to get 4 people on the screen in a Zoom video, and now I think it's up to 9 or 12 they're working on. So they keep expanding that. They're in some good competition with Zoom, and I'm sure they'll keep catching up, and it'll just be a race, which in the end will probably benefit everybody. So great. So it's demo time. So let me bring that up. Okay, so I'm logged into Teams as our demo user, so I have very little information in here, which is great because it's kind of a clean slate. So this is the Teams application. This is the app that you get when you install the full desktop application. Teams does work inside a browser, as I mentioned, and it does work from your phones and tablets. So, but we'll be looking at this for now, and by and large, again, most of those uh, uh, features and functions we can see from here for the critical ones I'm showing you. So if we look down the left side here, you've got icons and buttons for some of the most common activities people do. And one of the most common activities people do is a one-to-one chat. So I've got Tobin Solutions. Amanda Young is listening in, and she's going to be my buddy here as I go through and chat something. So I'm going to click here and say I'm going to do a new chat. And I'm just going to type her name in, and it'll just go find her right away. And I can say, hello. Sun shining by you. I noticed it's no rain this morning. It's, where did I spell sun shining wrong? So I do a quick chat, and if she's on, she will respond. I can see that she looked at it, this little icon change, that she's seen this. And you can see that she's typing a message. Great. Weather's beautiful by you. Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, and now these chats can just go back and forth, right? And we're fairly familiar with how chatting works. The difference is this is all inside your organization. Okay, if I for some reason left the organization, my chats don't leave with me. They're all inside and available and archived and secure. The chat can go just like we chat here, but you can get kind of fancy if you want. You can, if you have a longer list of items here and you want to start getting fancy with some items here, I can do that, send those kinds of things. You can put in bold and you can do some nice editing with that if that is important to you in chatting back and forth. You can do that. And I can send that out. If I want to add a GIF of something, like let's say we're having pizza for lunch here, I can have some fun with that. It's got some GIFs built in. Again, depending on who you are, this might be frivolous. For some people, it just adds to the fun, and I've definitely seen us make more use of some of these things with our distributed work from home workforce right now, because there's some people they're on their own, and so a little fun, a little connectedness, a little humor can go a long way towards that keeping that team going. So you've got that. I can put in stickers and things like that. Amanda does a great job. Awesome. Can do that kind of a thing. Whoop. Yep, sending it. Which is nice. And another nice thing that I can do is if I'm not available or if I'm in a meeting or something like that, because what you get with this is what we call presence awareness, right? When you're texting somebody, especially if you're not on like iMessage or something like that. You don't always know if they're online or if they're available. With this, we can actually see, so I can see a red circle next to Amanda's icon, her avatar. It's showing that she's busy. She's busy because she's scheduled for a meeting. So Teams automatically will mark you as busy if it notices that you're in a meeting. And if it was green, then that means she's not in a meeting and she's connected to a device. Like you can see mine up here, you can see a green check mark. That's showing that I'm available right now for a conversation. If I walk away from my computer for, I think the default is 10 or 15 minutes, it'll turn to yellow showing that I'm away. So again, when you're communicating with somebody, one of the things you want to know is, are they on the other side listening? Are they available? So this presence awareness is a great feature of Microsoft Teams. And if I'm going to be in a meeting or something like that and I want to let people know what's going on, I can go in here and I can set my status message. I can say in a webinar until 10:30. And I can say when people message me, they're going to see that message and I can automatically clear my messages after a period of time. So it tells me at the top, my chat and channels when people message me or mention me is going to be there till 11:12. Now, when Amanda sends me a message on her screen where it says, please type a message, she's going to see my status there as she's typing. So right in her face, right as she's typing, she's going to see that I'm not available. So it's really handy for that. Let me take a break here for a second, grab a sip of water, and see what we got in the chat for questions. Can Teams show you all the employees in the company for chatting without adding them to a team? Yeah, you can, you've got some default groups that are set up. So you can have an all employee group and use that. So when I was sending a message before, I was chatting with Amanda and it's found her name. If I had a group of all my employees, I could select that group and then chat with them. So that might get you what you need there. Can Teams maintain a contact list that updates dynamically? Let's see. That one looks a little more complex. I'm going to hold that one towards the end and keep rolling with our demo here. So I apologize. I'll come back to that one. And someone's asking about the help section. They definitely have a lot of good online help that's available and support. You got keyboard shortcuts here. You've got help up in your window. You can get help on different features and functions you can type up for that. And it's pretty good help. Find a lot of good stuff in there. Between that and our searching on Google and things like that, you can get a lot of good information on there. So, as I said, I'm chatting with Amanda right now. If I wanted to share my screen with Amanda so that she could see that, if you want to notice at the top here, I've got some other buttons here. I can turn this into a video call, which I won't do that right now. But if I click on this, it's going to engage my camera. It's going to engage Amanda's camera, and we could start video and voice chatting. If I want to do just a voice call, I could click the phone and we would just be doing a voice call. And again, this is great. It works off your phone and your tablet, and it works really well, especially if you have a modern phone. So like an iPhone or an Android phone, something fairly modern. So you can kind of get the best of both worlds because maybe you're on a desktop computer and you haven't got a camera or you haven't got speakers or you haven't got a microphone on your camera. You can actually have Teams be running in both places. So you can be on your phone using that as a camera and a microphone, and then be chatting directly on your computer. The last button is screen sharing. So I can click that and I can say, I want to show and share a screen. It brings up which items we want to share. And when I do that, I pick that one. Amanda's then going to see that on her screen that Jeremy is now sharing the screen with her. And she can just be watching what I'm doing, but I can also give her, she can request or I can give presentation control so she can actually move the mouse and do things as if she's controlling my screen remotely. And then when I'm done, I can say stop sharing the screen and then it's over. Okay. So that's the chatting. And again, this is the one-to-one chat. If I want, I can add someone else to the chat. I can click here and add people. And now it'll create a new, if I add one person, it'll create a new chat here. You'll see not only Amanda, but you'll see Amanda and whoever else got entered into it. So there'll be that group chat available, and you can keep adding and they can go back and see what's in there. If I wanted to schedule a meeting with Amanda right from here, I can click here and bring up the scheduling assistant here and put in a new meeting in. It's automatically got Amanda in there. I can say when this is, where it's going to be, how often, so you can schedule meetings right from within Teams, and these automatically get dropped into your Outlook calendar and all of that, so it's all seamlessly integrated. But again, from one place, you can go ahead and do that. And if you want to use a scheduling assistant to see wherever people are available, you can go grab that, find them, and get that meeting together. And then the thing that's nice is when it's when you've set up the meeting through Teams, when you're in Outlook, when you see that meeting, there's going to be a join button on that Outlook meeting. You click that and it'll bring you right into Teams when it's time to start the meeting. So it makes it really easy to get to it. Okay, so that is basics of chat and Teams chat. I'm sorry, group chat kind of covers the basics of it. What I'd like to do now is go into actually what the Teams piece looks like, and you can see what some of those things are. So I've got a basic team set up here called the website team. So this might be an example of where you might use it inside your organization, right? Maybe you've got a project to enhance your website, or someone you're doing regular work on your website, maintenance or integrations or whatever that is. But this could be any other team. It could be a marketing team or a finance team or anything you want to have in there. And what I can do is I can go in, I can manage the team, and you can see that I'm the owner of it. I'm logged in as Tobin Demo, and then here's the other members. We've got Amanda in here listed as a member. And I can change her privileges. I can make her an owner so she can do more in terms of configuring how this Teams is used inside of Teams and what's possible with it. I can add more users. If I want to say add a member, I can go do that, bring that in, and get those users set up for who needs access to it. If I go to edit the team, I can change the name of it, I can change the description, but I can also change the privacy level. Is this a private team that's only for the members, or is this a public one that anyone inside your organization can join? So you've got that level of security, and again, you want to really always be watching out for security when you're rolling out applications like this, because it's very easy for people to get running with putting a lot of good information and stuff out there, and you want to just make sure it fits with your security needs. So we've got this website, we've got the general channel that's there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chat with Amanda, but I don't actually have to even mention Amanda here. She's part of this group right now. So when I say hi, it's not going to show up in her necessarily in her chat right now, but when she goes into that team, she's going to now see that chat back and forth. And that chat is no longer that chat that's just between her and I. It's now happening for everybody that is inside of and a member of this team site. So if I add more people, the chats now happen inside there. Now you can get alerts when there's a new item in there, or you can have it be where it's an intentional thing where you just go look and see what's new in the chats there. If I specifically mention Amanda, and I use that @ sign, that's a special thing inside of Teams that she's going to absolutely get a note inside her chat that she's got something specific that she's been identified as needing her attention. So that's another way of using it. And but again, all of this chat happens inside there, which is really useful. Now I don't have to go in and, how else you might have been doing this in the past. You might have been doing email and creating folders in email, and all those emails are back and forth, and you put them in a folder. Well, maybe some of those emails don't have to go back and forth anymore. Now maybe you can use the Teams chat feature and have it automatically organize that information right where it needs to be. Yep, she's showing right in there what that looks like. So when I mentioned her, she got a special notification. Thank you. So if I want to reply right to that, or I want to reply back to this one, I can do that. And again, all of that information gets in there. You can also do things like, the reactions, like Facebook. I can say, okay, yeah, I saw that. I like that message, or that was hilarious. It's a way of acknowledging. Did someone see the message? Yep, I thumbs up. I saw your message. It's been communicated. What I'm going to do is, let's say I want to create another channel here. So I'm going to say add a channel. And if this is a website, maybe we want to look at search engine optimization. So I can add that channel. And now you can see I've got a new channel here. Now when I click on that, again, you'll notice that conversation we were having up in the general, it's not here. It's only in that general channel. So now if I can say that, I can say, please send me the analytics for the search engine optimization. Now I didn't even send that to anybody specific. That just went out to whoever's in the group associated with this team. So again, we can have those chats back and forth. You're chatting around that topic now, which is great. But it's more than chatting. If I want to do a call right now, I can do start a meet now, and everyone that's in this team will automatically get a message saying, hey, join a meeting right now. Or I can go and schedule meetings for the group. There's a lot of different things you can do from there. I mentioned before those files. Click on files. These are files that are associated specifically with the search engine optimization. And here we have a list of files, and we have no files in here. So you can either upload files if you want, or you can go from here and just say, I want to do a new document right away. Call it SEO goals. You can create a document, and right within the teams, you can see it brings up Word Online, and it's going to allow me to edit this document. I can put that in here. For all you people that speak Italian or Latin. So got that. I can go ahead and close this out because it's automatically saved. And now here's the document. So instead of emailing documents back and forth or going to find them through your file server, you just, hey, I'm interested in the search engine optimization project. I'm going to go here. Here are my documents. You can create folders in there. You can add other documents and all that. Now, what's something we often do with documents? We often email them back and forth and ask people to look at them and see what they think and all of that. So one of the things I can do if I'm in this document is I can start a conversation around this document. So I've got this conversation I just started. If I go back and I go back to the posts, look at that. That conversation I did it from inside the document, but it automatically linked right to the document. Now Amanda could look at that. She can go update it. She can reply. She can do anything she wants there. and it's all right there. We don't have to email documents back and forth. We always know where the document is. We don't have to go find it. I don't have to even go into the files section to go find it. I can click on it right from here and edit it in Teams or open it in a desktop application or in a browser, anything I want to do with it. So that ability to have those conversations around documents, that's where the collaboration comes in. And Amanda, if you'll go into that document, let's take a look and see what the co-authoring looks like. So I'm in this document, and normally you'd go into a document, and what happens when you try and open it up now? It says this is locked. Well, now look, I can see that AY, that's Amanda, she's in here. She's listed up here. Now, if she starts typing or adding something in, I'm watching it live. She can start entering anything she wants in there, and we'll see it. And if I want to go up here and I want to start putting some more things in here, we're in the document at the same time. Not exactly a miracle if you're a Google Docs user. You've had this feature for a while, and Microsoft has had this in one format or another. But the fact they make it so easy to get to within Teams is really a killer feature for people. Let's see. So I mentioned again, so we talked about the chatting, we talked about the group chats and video calls and all of that. The other piece here is the ability to add tabs at the top. So these are things that you can put on. These are like links to documents. If you're always going to the same document for a channel, maybe there's a Excel spreadsheet that's a budget for our search engine optimization. I want to link that to the top. I can put that there. If I've got any of these other applications that I use, the list goes on and on and on, and I use one of these and I want to link it to this team site and make it available, I can put it there, have that either be in the channel, have that be available. Someone's asking about the sync button on top and what that does. Yeah, this works like this uses OneDrive in the background. So if you hit the sync button, it's actually going to create a copy of the files you've got here and put them on your local computer and keep those synced if you want to use those files offline, or you just like working files in that method. You can't, once you're syncing it offline, it'll sync the documents, but you can't collaborate on them at the same time. Okay. Let's see. I think those are the main features I wanted to call out. I don't think there's anything critical here that I haven't shown you. I've talked about applications, files. Yeah, we covered the highlights here. So I want to wrap up here. We're going up probably a couple minutes long. For those of you that can stick on, I apologize for going over a little bit, but I want to complete this. And that is, what can you do with this? Let's start to see what's possible. Let's start to uh, uh, how can you use this? What questions do you have? Where do you see a project where this might be useful and you want to see if Teams might be a good opportunity for this? As I mentioned, we can help you with security, we can help you with integration, we can help you just plan it out and make sure it gets done properly. And one thing people hate in life in most cases is change and new things when they're used to doing things the way they always did them. And so Teams may be foreign, it may be new, it may be, I don't like this, I'm not familiar with it. And so the ability to roll this out in a way that has people adapt to the change a little bit better and takes into account that they're part of this team to make it happen, no pun intended, can be really useful. And so we've got some expertise there we can also bring. We see a lot of products like this fail, and it's really the product, it's usually in the rollout. It's really the product didn't meet the needs. It's that we tried to roll it out, not give training, not customize it, not do what needed to be done to have it be successful, and then it became a failed project and we went back to the way we did things the way we used to. And we want to avoid that. So give us a call, let us know what you think you might use with it. And let's see here. Just want to, go all the way to the end here. Ah, Press the wrong button. Yep, here we are. So wrapping up, thank you very much. My contact information is at the top here if there's anything you want to follow up on. If you'd like to join our mailing list, we've got a lot of great content we send out via our newsletters and how-tos and tips and security advisories and things that really should be on your radar if you're someone that's interested in that kind of stuff. We're also on the various social media platforms, and we do a lot of announcements and put out great information that way. So feel free to do there. We're also available to speak on other topics, especially IT security, other Office 365, Microsoft 365 topics. So thank you very much. And I'll stick around for a little bit. If anybody has anything else they want to chat with, I'll take you off mute if there's any questions you want to ask straight up of us that way. And we'll go from there. Otherwise, I hope you're all doing well. I hope everyone is safe and sound and you guys are navigating this craziness that's out in the world. If you've been able to work and do that well, that's awesome. If you're just starting to get back to work as a result of some of this, hope it all goes well and be strong through all this. There's a lot of new learnings to have, and I know people are excited to get back to some kind of a new normal, whatever that looks like. So thanks again for being here today. Be on the lookout for our next webinar coming out next month, and seeing a few thanks, and I'll go through the chat here, and in the meantime, if there's any other questions, feel free to ask those. Thank you so much. Let's see, regarding video chat, any thoughts on Teams expanding to more active viewers to compete with Zoom? I'm certain that's on Microsoft's roadmap to add more active viewers and that you can see on the screen at the same time. Like I said earlier, they've expanded from 4, and I think it's up to 9 or 12 right now. And that's a big feature for people, especially as they have larger groups and multiple screens. So I'm sure it's on Microsoft's roadmap to keep incrementally improving the ability to see more viewers at the same time. And if you're talking about how many people can even join a meeting, Teams can scale out to thousands if that's something that you need to do. Let's see, I answered the sync question, talked a little bit about help.
Hey, Jeremy, fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Quick question for you, just circling back on the contact lists. So what I was referring to in my question, so in Skype for Business, we use distribution lists at our organization, and those update dynamically for all users. Is there a way to have a dynamically updated contact list within Teams, not necessarily for the chat feature, not necessarily within a team? So, i.e., I want to, find maybe 2 or 3 users, but I don't want to message every single person on an entire team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So within Teams, let me bring that up again. See if I'm answering your question here. So when I do the way it's laid out is it shows your recent chats that you've got here. So if you're regularly chatting with a few different people, you're going to see them here as individuals. And if they're group chats, not tied to a team or a channel, you're going to see them listed here too. So if I was chatting with Amanda and Kyle, I would see an Amanda and Kyle group here that I'd be able to use. Now, if Amanda was someone I was regularly doing that with, chatting with, what I can do is I can add her to my favorite contacts or pin her to the top so that it's easy to find her afterwards. So I can say she's a favorite contact, and now when I go under my contacts list, I can see her. And you can do the same thing with those groups. So if you've got a group of a few different people, you can make that group be a pinned or favorite contact group. And if you have part of your organization, if you're using the features that Microsoft 365 has around groups, you can have that be as part of the administration. So if you've got a department, like if I want to do a new message here and I want to do it to my leadership team, I can do @leadership team. Oh, that's not going, is that not showing up? Oh, you know what? I'm not part of that. I'm in the demo user, so I haven't got that part of my, let's see if this one works. Yeah, so we got a couple of other groups out here. So if you set up those people and have them be part of those groups as part of your normal administration, hey, you're part of the all company group, you're part of one department's group, or you're part of my project team, you can create those groups and then just reference those when you're chatting, either inside the one-to-one chats or the group chats, or even inside the projects, and it would just be at that group name. Did that answer your question or get close?
I think you got close. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any follow up, let me know if I didn't quite nail it.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. And thank you all for all the questions we've been getting so far. Um, just see if there's anything else. I don't think I see any other